Hi, everybody. My name is Diego. I'm the program manager of curriculum here at Lambda. And today we are going to be going over the basics of debate. If you're watching this video, you're probably new to it, or maybe you're showing people who are new to it. Either way, this presentation is just going to go over the basics of debate, what it is, what you can expect from the activity. And yeah, it's just a jumping off point to help you get acclimated. So, thank you for joining, and I hope this helps. Uh, structure. There are three types of speeches in debate. The first one is a constructive, second one is rebuttal, and the third one is a cross-examination speech. This right here is the structure. So you'll see that the first affirmative constructive starts, followed with cross-examination in between. Then the first negative constructive, then 2AC, 2NC. These are terms that we just shortened it down to. And in between every constructive speech, there is a cross-examination speech. So that's a speech where after one side is done speaking, the other side has time to ask questions in between. After that, it is followed by four rebuttal speeches back to back, no cross-examination. This is just meant for you to compare arguments with. The constructive speeches are more about building stuff, followed by cross-examination, then followed by the rebuttals. Something else that you'll notice is that the negative has two back-to-back speeches in the middle. That is what's known as the negative block, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, constructives, they are 8 minutes long. They are the first half of the debate. I like to think of them as the Lego speeches because they build each team's arguments. The 1AC and 2AC, 1NC, 2NC are designed to be the introductory speeches to both sides' arguments and designed to advance the basic foundations so that the rebuttals are made to compare them and see whose side is better, who has the better evidence, why should one side win the debate over the other. Uh, in these constructive speeches, new arguments may be introduced. This just means that you are allowed to set the stage, you are allowed to introduce evidence, you're allowed to introduce new information to continue building your arguments in the debate. Um, the constructive speech also has to respond to new arguments that your opponents make. This is just something that's given within every single speech, aside from the first affirmative constructive. Obviously, that is the speech that starts everything, so there's nothing to respond to yet. But after that, your constructive speech, rebuttals, everything should be a response to what your opponents are arguing as well. Okay, in between every in between every constructive speech, there is cross-examination. Uh, it is also known as cross-X or CX, up to you. Again, there's a lot of terms that we shorten down in debate. Hopefully, you just learned them along the way. It's 3 minutes long and it happens after every constructive speech. This is the time where you want to be asking argumentative questions or looking for slip-ups. You should only be asking clarifying questions if you don't know what's going on, but that's a lecture for later. We have a lecture about cross-examination in case you're wondering. But as of right now, you're at the beginner stage. Don't worry too much about this. You should be asking questions that set up your future arguments as well. Okay, this is a slide that explains the specific roles for each speaking position. So if the 1EC just went up and you're on the negative side, the person who is the 2N will ask the questions. But again, this is more talked about in the cross-examination lecture, which I think you should check out if you're interested in it. Okay. Rebuttal speeches, they are 5 minutes long. They're the second half of a debate, and I encourage you to use your time effectively. The rebuttal speeches narrow arguments down to the best arguments. They refute your opponent's best arguments, and they're used to compare the credibility of each argument and explain which one should be prioritized in the debate. Right here, teams explain why they should win. And whereas in the constructive speeches, new arguments can be made, new information can be brought up, and the rebuttals, that is not allowed. Judges tend to just not acknowledge new arguments being made and only want to see you compare existing arguments with the other sides. Um, that's all it is. You're not allowed to bring up new information, but you are allowed to make new comparisons, for example. Just make sure that they don't happen too late, otherwise the judge will dismiss them. Ideally, you want all of your information out there, so your rebuttals are just comparing information that already exists. Okay. Negative block. What you'll see is that the negative has two back-to-back speeches in the beginning, or in the middle, I mean. This is created to make the debate more fair for the negative. So what you'll notice is that the affirmative starts and ends the debate. That means that they get the first impression, which is crucial for a judge that you might not know, but they also get the last words, which makes it more likely that the affirmative might sound more persuasive. Because of that, the negative gets this block in the middle of back-to-back negative speeches that requires the first affirmative rebuttal to respond to 13 minutes worth of arguments in 5 minutes. It's strategic for the negative to place the best arguments in the second part, which is also known as splitting the block. So, what you'll want to think about is that, and we'll talk about prep time in a little bit. Um, the negative should be placing the most offensive arguments in the first negative rebuttal. This is because it is the speech that comes last in the negative block, and it makes it so that the affirmative does not have as much time to hear the arguments and develop responses immediately. The 2NC is usually a mix of offensive and defensive arguments, but for the most part, the 1NR has the most offense in the negative speeches. Difference between defensive and offensive arguments will be discussed later, but just keep that in mind for now. Okay. Aside from these time constraints that are linear, like after the 1AC, the one cross-ex happens. After cross-ex of the 1AC, the 1AC happens. These things must happen in that order. Aside from that, you are allowed 8 minutes of prep time for each side. So for you and your partner, you get 8 minutes each. The other side gets 8 minutes as well. You're able to use this whenever and however you want. You can't use this during, like, while an opponent is giving a speech, but let's say you don't feel prepared to give your speech yet, or your partner doesn't feel prepared to give their speech yet, you can take 8 minutes of that prep time until it runs out. You can pause it at a certain time. There's no set time for when you need to pause it. Some people like to set, like, oh, I'll take 1 minute right now, then I'll take 2 minutes for this part of the debate. It's honestly up to you. You'll learn what's more strategic, what works for you. But generally speaking, it is strategic to save most of your time up until the rebuttals. Ideally, as you go on in debate, your constructive speeches are going to be pre-written for the most part, but your rebuttals is where you're not necessarily going to have everything scripted out, and you shouldn't, because rebuttals are about comparing what's going on in the moment. And so because of that, it's strategic to save prep time until the rebuttals. So that way you have time to think about what you want to compare, what the core issues of the debate are, and what you are going to do to convince the judge that your side should win. You should use time to prepare arguments for the following speech or discuss with your partner certain strategies. Um, yeah. With that being said, there's one more thing to learn about when it comes to debate, and that is what the evidence looks like. So we're going to go over that right now. Okay. So, inside your case file, you are going to see at the top of the file, it's going to talk about what the file name is. Depending on the season, it might be the one that you're seeing right now, or it could be something else. Uh, you're going to have a policy debate primer that links the video curriculum, structure of the round, which we talked about, roles of in policy debate, which just dive a little deeper as to what each speaking role is going to be. Uh, but what you're going to notice a lot of, and the primary bulk of your files is going to be these things called evidence. So this is the 1AC file, for example, and I just want to go over how to read the evidence itself. So in debate, you use evidence in a format called card formats. So in this packet, you will find evidence formatted as cards. In debate, you read evidence during your speech to support your arguments. You read quotes from this evidence as a way to cite your sources. So right here is an example of a card, this little block of condensed text right here. You'll see a bolded sentence at the top, an author's last name followed by the date, and then a bunch of other stuff in relation to the citation. Then the actual article being cited is going to follow, but it's going to look a little clunky at first. You're going to see some words that have zero formatting. Some of them are underlined, some of them are highlighted. Uh, we'll go over why that's the case. But for right now, all I need you to know is bold part at the top, that sentence at the top, it's the tagline. It's a brief summary of the argument that is made in the evidence. This over here, right under the Hope 2020, is an example of a cite. So it's the author and the date that the article was written in. There's a bunch of other stuff like the hyperlink, the title of the article, the date that it was written. But in debate, the most important thing that you're going to read out loud is the citation in bold. And then after that, you're going to have the text of the card. The only parts that debaters read in actual debates is what is highlighted. So let's look at an actual example right here. In debate, what you're going to do is Whenever you read a piece of evidence, you're going to read the tagline followed by the citation, followed by whatever you highlight. So, for example, this one would say, Advantage one is debt. Millions of Americans are in medical debt due to out-of-pocket costs and underinsurance. Debt also makes it more likely that people don't seek the care they need. Nunez, 25. And then let's say I start highlighting at the first sentence, I would start by saying medical debt is narrowly defined, money owed to medical service providers, etc. What you highlight depends on what you think are sentences that support the tagline. So you're looking for sentences that support this statement above right here. Most of the time, you're going to see a difference between the way certain cards are underlined. So some is not bold, some of it is bold. Bold usually means that it's the most important part of the article, while the other stuff is more supplemental information if you want to cite that. Your goal is to read the entire 1AC, depending on what it looks like for you, in 8 minutes. So if that means you have to shorten down the speech by a card, or that means you have to shorten down your highlighting, completely up to you. What you're doing with the card for the most part, you're not making your own in the rookie division. You are instead just highlighting what is already being given to you. But yeah, that's a quick intro to debate, and I hope that helps.